haven't met, I was a teacher for 7 years, jumped into the ed tech space for a while, and now I'm at the foundation helping expand CS across the US. Now, we have all heard the hype. AI will replace teachers, AI will replace thinking, AI will do everything for us. And honestly, that can be pretty terrifying because if we're not careful, we're going to raise a generation of students who think their job is to ask the right question and then copy paste whatever the computer spits out. But here's what I've discovered. In a truly effective PBL classroom, AI doesn't replace thinking, it tests thinking. It becomes the sparring partner, the fact checker, the stress test for ideas that students have already built with their own hands and brains. So today, I'm going to show you 3 projects, one for elementary, one for middle school, one for high school, where students do the heavy lifting first and AI comes in second. Think of this like a cooking show. I'm going to show you the ingredients, the physical hands-on work, then I'll show you the oven, the AI integration, and finally, you'll see the finished dish, the actual learning that happens. And here's the best part. I'm not just going to talk about this, I'm going to demonstrate it live. You're going to watch me type prompts into AI in real time so you can see exactly what your students would experience. All right, let's head over to our PowerPoint presentation. We're going to do a little bit of learning more about it, and then we'll do the AI part, okay? So we'll start with the ingredients first. So before we dive into the projects, let's talk about what happens when we get this backwards. When students use AI before they've done their own thinking, 3 things happen. First, they don't develop the content knowledge. If AI writes the summary of the Boston Tea Party, the student never actually learns what happened. Second, they can't spot errors. If you don't know the facts, you can't tell when AI is making things up. And trust me, it makes things up constantly. And third, they lose the most important skill we can teach them, the ability to think critically, to question, to verify, to argue with evidence. Okay, so here's the rule that guides everything we're going to be doing today. In a PBL classroom that uses AI well, the laptop stays closed for the first 15 to 20 minutes. In my opinion, of course, there's no written rule, but I strongly suggest that. So we're going to start with what I call the human spark, the messy, analog, hands-on work that forces students to really engage their brains. They read physical books, they write on sticky notes, they build posters with markers, they have debates face-to-face, and only after they've built their understanding do they turn to AI to test what they've created. Today, you're going to see 3 projects that flip the script. For elementary, we have the instruction engineers, where students learn that garbage in equals garbage out by writing crystal clear instructions before testing them on AI. Then for middle school, we have the historical hallucination hunt, where students build a fact wall from real research and then use it to catch AI's historical errors. And for high school, we have the persona prototype, where students create deep character analysis, then critique how AI fails to capture literary complexity. For each project, I'll show you the hands-on phase, the AI integration, and the materials that you'll need to make this happen. Now, just a heads up, because this is a live demonstration and I want you actively thinking along with me, I'm going to use a technique called the pause and pivot. After I show you an AI response, I'll pause for 10 seconds and ask you to think about a specific question. You don't have to type anything in the chat, but if you do, I will read it out loud. Just think about it. It's up to you guys. Then I'll share what I would do. And this keeps you mentally engaged without the pressure of participating publicly. But of course, the more participation, the better. And like I said, I'll be happy to read your chat responses out loud. Okay, sounds good? Let's dive into our first project. So our first project is the instruction engineers with elementary. So this project is the instruction engineers, and the core skill we're teaching is precision in communication. The big question driving this project is, can you give instructions so clear that even a computer can follow them? Now, why does this matter? Because one of the biggest misconceptions students have about AI is that it can read their minds. They think, oh, I'll just ask it to help me with my homework. And they're shocked when it gives them something completely useless. This project teaches them that the quality of their output depends entirely on the quality of their input. So let me walk you through how this works in the classroom. Students start as instruction detectives. I send them out on a hunt around the classroom, the hallway, the cafeteria, anywhere there are posted rules or instruction, thus the term detective hunt. They're looking for vague, unclear language. They each get a clipboard with two types of sticky notes, green and yellow. When they find an instruction that's clear and specific, they write it on a green sticky note. And when they find a vague one, they write it on a yellow sticky note. Now, if they struggle with long form writing, have them draw pictures and then tell you what they drew. So this is really better for upper elementary, but younger ones can do it too. Now, they might come back with yellow sticky notes that say things like, clean up well, very vague, be respectful, work quietly. And they might have green sticky notes that say, push in your chair, put markers in the red bin, raise your hand before speaking. So then comes the building phase. Students work in pairs or small groups to create before and after posters. They take one of their yellow sticky notes, or their vague instructions, and then they physically redesign it using markers, sentence scripts, construction paper. So let's say they found clean up well. They might create a poster that says, step 1, put all pencils in the blue cup. Step 2, stack papers in the tray on the left side of your desk. Step 3, blah, 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 blah. And then this is where the deep thinking happens. They have to break down a complex task into specific sequential steps. They have to imagine someone who's never been in the classroom before trying to follow their instructions. They have to get granular. This phase takes about 20 to 25 minutes, hopefully. And notice we haven't used computers yet. They're using their brains, their observation skills, their ability to communicate clearly. And that's the human spark. Now, here's where AI enters the picture. So I'm going to go ahead and put AI ChatGPT on my screen here. And once students have created their after instructions, the ones that they've engineered, very specific versions of instructions, they're going to stress test them using AI. But first, I want to show you what happens when we use the before version, the vague instruction. So I'm going to act like a student who hasn't done the work, the engineered specific versions work, and I'm going to type in a vague instruction that we started with. So I'm just going to say, tell me how to clean up. Very vague instruction, but this is something that we would want to show our students. So this one is actually based on something that I have actually entered before, but this is very clear. It says, put all pencils in the blue cup on the supply shelf. Make sure none are left on the desk or floor. Stack all papers neatly. Does anybody know why this happened? This is not the answer I was expecting, and I'm going to explain why. So when I was preparing for this webinar, I asked for very specific instructions from a prompt that I had already created ahead of time for this webinar. And now, unexpectedly, it has actually responded based on my history. So I'm going to actually hop into Claude very quickly, and we're going to go ahead and do the same one. And we're going to try and see what it does from a clean slate here. Tell me how to clean up. And Claude, I love it, but it's definitely an overthinker at times and is really overthinking this. So it's asking what kind of space we want to clean. So I'll say physical space. And you see what's happening here? We're getting a lot of gobbledygook. It's not giving us a direct answer. We're trying to figure out what we want. It's having difficulty. And so here it says start with a quick sort, work in zones, clear surfaces first. This is not going to match an elementary student. So if they go ahead and use their engineered version, let's see what happens. So let's say that they do something else like explain how to clean up by putting all pencils in the blue cup on the supply shelf, stacking papers in the black tray on the left side of the desk, and pushing the chair under the desk until it clicks. So let's see what happens when it actually puts this in the correct um, order and gives us more details here. So hopefully what will happen is it's going to tell us what to do. But I noticed that when I said the papers, it says gather any loose papers, stack them neatly, push your chair under their desk until you hear or feel it. So we get those extra little details, those extra little nudges. Very simple, very clear, but it was really helped to engineer to give us something more specific because of the prompts that the students have created. So that is a way to make it more specific, more valuable. And this helps the students see viscerally that AI is only as smart as the human using it. Garbage in, garbage out, clear thinking in, useful response out. And so here's my pause and pivot. I want you to look at the responses on the screen. And you see the first one that's filled with a lot of generic information. And you see the second one that is more specific to what the students were asking about. What would you tell a student is the key difference between these two? What's the lesson here? What would you tell them? Now you can pop that in the chat or wait for me to go ahead and tell you what I think the lesson here is. Ah, someone said crafting prompt. Learn from your crafting a prompt here. Yes, very good. The better the prompt, the better the results. Excellent. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Mohammed. Any more? All right, we're going to keep going. That's very good. And, that's something I would tell my students. AI doesn't actually care about your classroom, it doesn't know your systems. The only way it can help you is if you do the thinking first. You have to be the expert. The AI is just a mirror, it reflects back the quality of thought you put into it. So that's what I would tell them. Just AI is a mirror, and garbage in, garbage out. I like that. Vague directions, messy results. Thanks, Tony. Okay, so now we're going to continue. And the key skills that the students developed here are precision in communication. Students learn that clarity requires effort and specificity. Every word matters when giving instructions. The next one is breaking complex tasks into steps. The practice of decomposing big ideas into sequential, manageable steps that anyone can follow is huge, especially at a young age. And finally, students discover that AI quality depends entirely on human input quality. It can't read minds or fill gaps. So a quick adaptation tip, if this is something that you're going to put in your classroom, if it's an upper and elementary, you can extend this project by having students test each other's instructions first before going into AI. So an example, student A writes instructions and then student B tries to follow them exactly as written, and then they debug it together. And then they test that debugged version, on AI. And this adds another layer of human thinking before the tech part comes in. All right, so that's elementary. Students learn that their thinking drives the tool, not the other way around. Now let's move to middle school, where we're going to make AI the villain. All right, so the historical hallucination hunt. Okay, so welcome to middle school, where our students are starting to think they know everything, and we need to teach them healthy skepticism. So this project is called the historical hallucination hunt. And the core skill is information literacy, specifically how to verify sources and spot false information. The driving question for students is, can you catch AI telling lies? And here's the premise. I tell students up front that AI hallucinates. It makes things up. It sounds confident even when it's completely wrong. And their job as junior historians is to build such strong knowledge of a historical event that they can catch every single error AI makes. And this project works for any historical event, but let me walk you through it using the Boston Tea Party as an example. So they're going to build a fact wall, and they're going to be divided into fact-checking squads, groups of 3 to 4 students, and each squad gets the same mission. They build a fact wall of 10 non-negotiable truths about the Boston Tea Party using only physical research sources. And I'm very specific about what counts as a physical source. Textbooks, library books, encyclopedias, these, no websites, no AI, no digital shortcuts. They have to go old school. And this research phase takes 30 to 40 minutes, hopefully. And, it's slower than Googling and you may get some complaints, but that's the point. Building deep knowledge takes effort. You have to read multiple sources and make decisions about what's important. You have to think like a historian, and you want to get that across to your students. So here is a simple, fact wall, Boston Tea Party. This is what it would look like. And so their fact wall might include some of these facts, like the Boston Tea Party occurred on December 16th, 1773, or they dumped 342 chests of tea into the harbor. But here's the key. For every fact on their wall, they must cite the source. They write the book title and page number right on the index card. And this teaches them that facts without sources are just opinions, as we know. So now, once every squad has built their fact wall, we move to the fun part, setting the trap for AI. Here's where we flip the script. Instead of asking AI to help us, we're asking AI to lie to us. I intentionally prompt AI to generate text with historical errors. And then students have to use their fact wall to catch every mistake. And let me show you what this looks like. So I'm going to use ChatGPT again here. And we are going to write a 3-paragraph summary of the Boston Tea Party for middle school students. Include 3 subtle historical errors. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen, sorry. Small mistakes that sound believable but are factually wrong. Do not tell me what the errors are. Let's see what it comes up with. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to leave it on the screen for just a few seconds. And for those of you listening in, I'll read a couple of sentences, but I'll leave it on the screen for you guys to read. All right. It took place in 1774. Many colonists were upset about the British laws. The Tea Act, which raised the price of tea. To show their anger, a group of colonists planned a dramatic act of protest in Boston. They boarded 4 British ships, disguised themselves as Native Americans. All right, so it's really hard to find where these errors are, right? And so now in the classroom, what I would do is I would print it out and give a copy to each fact-checking squad. Their job is to take out those red pens, and I literally call them bleeding heart pens, and mark every single error they find. But here's the rule. They can't just circle something and say, this is wrong. They have to prove it's wrong using their fact wall. They write in the margin, wrong, see fact number 3 on our wall, source, American Revolution textbook, page 47 or something like that. And here we see it right here on our error hunting process slide. Let's say the AI wrote on December 18, 1773, over 300 angry colonists gathered at Boston Harbor. And a student squad would circle December 18th and write error. The correct date is December 16th, 1773. Actually, in our ChatGPT, they said 1774. So, a source, American Revolution, textbook, page 94. That's just a made-up source, but that's what we want them to put. We want them to put the sources on the page. And we can also put error. The squad would write 250 chest, error, the correct number is 342 chest, and then they would cite the source. So this is where critical thinking becomes tangible. Students aren't just passively reading, they're actively interrogating the text. They're using evidence to challenge authority. They're learning, and just because something is written with confidence doesn't mean it's true. And here's a beautiful side effect. When students find an error, they feel like detectives solving a case. They get excited, they start looking for more mistakes. Some squads even compete to see who can find errors fastest. Now, let me show you the flip side. Let me ask AI to write something without intentional errors, and let's see what happens. Oh, I'm so glad you like this exercise. Thank you so much, Mohammed. I'm going to put this in the chat here. And it's write a 3-paragraph summary of the Boston Tea Party for middle school students. Be as historically accurate as possible. So it's going to be pretty accurate. And we expect that. It says 1773, December 16th. Then it says the Tea Act, which allowed a British company to sell tea directly to the colonies. And so it kind of cleared up some of the stuff that it mentioned in the first paragraph that was completely incorrect. So it looks pretty good. But here's the critical thinking move I want students to make. Even when AI isn't intentionally wrong, it can still be incomplete, oversimplified, or missing nuance. So let's go back. Oh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't sharing my my ChatGPT screen. I am so sorry about that, guys. So beyond the error detection process, we want to have students do a second layer of analysis. They compare the AI summary to their fact wall and ask, what facts did I leave out? Did AI oversimplify any complex issues? Are there multiple perspectives AI didn't mention? For example, AI might not mention that some colonists disagreed with the destruction of property. It might not explain the economic complexity of the Tea Act. It might not include indigenous perspectives on colonists using native disguises. All of these things are things we want our students to figure out and bring forth to the table so that they can really analyze and understand going just beyond the surface and how to use AI responsibly. All right, pause and pivot time. Look at the 2 AI summaries I just generated. I'm going to put them back up on the screen here. Sorry about that, everyone. And if you were a middle school student, which one would be more valuable for learning? The one trying to help you or the one trying to trick you? Which one do you guys think is better? The helping one or the tricking one? And I'll tell you what I think too, but let me see in the chat. Ooh, Anna likes the one finding the errors. I like that one too. Anyone else? Oh, Flojine said the tricking one. Very nice. Okay, so my thoughts are on it is the one trying to trick you is definitely more valuable, just like you guys said, because it really forces you to engage actively. You can't just passively absorb information. You have to challenge it, verify it, think about it. That's where real learning happens. And when AI tries to help you, you can just copy, paste, and move on. But when AI tries to trick you, you have to become an expert to catch it. And I mean, you don't want to go ahead and copy, paste, you know what I mean, but it's pretty spot on and very useful. But being an expert is what we want the students to become when AI tries to trick you. All right, we're going to go back to our slide page here. Let me make sure we're there. Okay, sorry about the back and forth. Okay, so skills that they will develop. So the key skills are literacy and source verification, active reading and close analysis, evidence-based argumentation, healthy skepticism toward AI-generated content, and understanding, from me, that confidence doesn't equal accuracy. That's something. Now here's some extension ideas for this. If you want to make this even richer, do an escalation round. After students catch the 3 errors you planted, challenge them. You can say, I bet there are errors you didn't catch. Then have them go and do deeper research to verify everything in the summary, not just the obvious mistakes. And then for the creation round, have students write their own summary with 3 planted errors and then swap it with another squad. Now they're thinking from both sides, creating deceptive text and detecting it. And this works cross-disciplinary too, guys. You can do this for science, you can have a fact wall about the water cycle, photosynthesis, human body system, and then catch AI scientific errors. Yes, someone asked for the original error prompt once more. Let me see if I can pull that up here. I am putting it in the chat, and it was write a 3-paragraph summary of the Boston Tea Party for middle school students and include 3 subtle historical errors, small mistakes that sound believable but are factually wrong. Do not tell me what the errors are. I'm putting it in the chat, and there you guys have it. Okay. All right, everyone. You're welcome, Poppy. So that's middle school. Students learn that AI is not a reliable historian. They have to be. Now let's move on to high school, where we're going to use AI to study the human soul. Okay, so this is the persona prototype. So here we are in high school, and we're going in a little bit deeper. We're looking for a little bit more complexity, nuance, and the messy humanity that makes literature worth reading. So this project is called Persona Prototype, and it works for any novel, play, or complex literary text, but you may be able to apply it to your own classroom. Now, the core skill is literary analysis and the ability to make nuanced arguments about character, motivation, and theme. The driving question is, can AI truly understand a character's soul? Now, we'll talk more about this in detail. I'm going to walk you through this using Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare, but you could use Great Gatsby, To Kill a Mockingbird, Beloved, The Crucible, any text with complex characters. And the premise is simple. Students are going to prepare so thoroughly to be Juliet Capulet that they can do 2 things. First, role play her convincingly in an AI-powered interview, and second, write a critical analysis of where AI fails to capture her complexity. So let's look at the character deep dive map. So before students even touch a computer, they create what I call a character deep dive map. And this is a large poster-sized visual representation of everything that they know about the character, in this case, Juliet. So the map has to include 4 sections. Section 1 is the textual evidence. And here we want them to find 8 to 10 direct quotes from the play that reveal Juliet's personality. They write the quotes on the map with act and scene numbers. For example, one of her quotes were, "My only love sprung from my only hate." So then they could write the act and the scene there. Or, "What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet." And then we can put the scene and the act there too. Section 2 is symbols and motifs. What objects, colors, or images are associated with Juliet? They can draw or paste images, do like their own little vision board on section 2. And the balcony, the potion, the rose, light and darkness imagery, the lark versus the nightingale, all of these little things, they can just put those symbols in there. Section 3 is relationships. How does Juliet interact with different characters? Students create a relationship web showing her forbidden love with Romeo, her strained relationship with her parents, her trust in the nurse who betrayed her, her desperate alliance with Friar Lawrence. All of these can be on the map, and they have to put it together. And section 4 is motivations and contradictions. And this is where it gets interesting, because students identify what drives Juliet and where she contradicts herself. Her motivation might be achieving autonomy and true love in a world that denies her agency. And her contradiction might be that she's obedient and respectful at the beginning of the play, but becomes defiant and willing to fake her own death at the end. So she transforms from a dutiful daughter to a young woman who says, "If all else fail, myself have power to die." All right, so this is what the map would look like, I would imagine it maybe on like a 3 folded poster board, one of those large ones that fold in thirds, and then they can have it sectioned off there. And it could take a full class period. Students are reading, annotating, debating, they're building their expertise. And if you want, it can be finished outside of the classroom and then brought back in for the AI portion of it where you are supervising that. So let's go ahead and switch to our AI interface where we'll do the AI version here. And so now we're going to do the AI phase, and it has 2 parts: the interview and the critique. Students are going to use AI to role play as Juliet, and they're going to interview her. But the catch is they have to judge whether AI is staying true to the character they mapped. And let me show you how to set this up. So here's the prompt. This is a long prompt, and I'll put it in the chat as well so you guys can copy it for yourselves. And the prompt is, you are Juliet Capulet from William Shakespeare's play Romeo and Juliet. I am a confidant speaking with you privately in Verona. Answer my questions as Juliet would at age 13, using Shakespearean language, vocabulary, and attitudes that appear in the play. Stay in character completely. Do not break the fourth wall or acknowledge you are AI. All right, let's hit enter, and we're going to wait for a response. Let's see how it responds. Okay, it says, good, my gentle friend, I am alone with thee, and will speak my heart as it is. Ask what thou wilt. I am but newly a maid of 13 years, yet my thoughts are full, my spirit quick, and my words shall be as honest as my modesty allowed. Speak on, I shall answer thee truly as Juliet of Verona. Ah, very nice. I love the way it's speaking to us in Shakespearean language just right off the bat. Okay, so let's go ahead and ask it a question. Juliet, your parents have arranged for you to marry Paris. How do you truly feel about this match? And let's see what the AI says. This is where we're going to ask the students to think critically and see what would Juliet really say. So I'm just going to scan this a little bit because it's a little bit long here. I see him as a well-seamed and fair of face, courteous in speech and noble in his bearing, but liking is not love, nor promise the same as passion. And then Paris may be honorable, yet my heart stands still, as though it waits for some unknown call. Till then, I'm content to be a maid and no man's wife by haste or force. So, would Juliet really answer this way? Is AI making her too modern in her feminism, too articulate about her own rebellion? And at what point in the play is this Juliet that's speaking right now? Is she the obedient girl from Act 1 who says, I look to like? Or is she the desperate girl from Act 4 who's already married to Romeo? Does the language match Shakespeare's style? Does it capture her poetry, her imagery? These are the things that we want our students to be able to catch. And I feel like it's not completely matching Shakespearean style, just my personal thoughts on it. But yeah, it's very interesting. This is something for your students to answer. Next question. What do you think of Romeo Montague? Your families are sworn enemies. So let's see what it says here. My doth just tremble even to shape that name, for it is both my joy and my undoing. Ah, would that he were called by any other sound, for what is Montague but a word? Yet that word stands armed against my house, and bids my love turn traitor to my blood. Very interesting. So, students will compare this to the actual text. In the play, Juliet is both passionate and pragmatic about Romeo. She loves him intensely, but she also questions the speed of their relationship. She says at one point that it is too rash, too sudden, and she's really caught between ecstasy and anxiety. So does AI capture that internal conflict here? I'm not going to read the whole thing for the sake of time, but Does it make her either too swooning and romantic or too cautious and mature? The real Juliet contains both extremes at once, and it's really hard for AI to convey such a thing. So, this is something that we really want our students to do research about and really dive deep. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue here. So when AI gets it wrong. So here's what I love about this exercise. So students realize that AI can do a decent surface level imitation, but it often misses the psychological depth, the contradictions, the subtle transformation that really makes Juliet compelling. And AI might make Juliet too consistently rebellious throughout, when the whole point is that she becomes rebellious. She gets this character trait over time. She doesn't start this way. And AI might use language that sounds Shakespearean, but doesn't really match Juliet's specific voice, such as her metaphors about birds or stars or light, which we see are very particular to her character. And we really want AI to display that. All right. So the critique paper. So after the interview, students write a 2 to 3 page critique analyzing where AI succeeded and where it failed to capture Juliet's character. Now, they might write things like, the AI forgot that Juliet is only 13 years old. She's not 14. I'm reading this off the slide, by the way, so this is something they could say. Her father says so in this act and scene. And while she's mature in many ways, she's still a child forced into adult situations. The AI made her sound too emotionally sophisticated. The real Juliet acts on passion and impulse, not careful reflection. So this is the type of critique that we want from our students. We want a deep critique. We want something where they are analyzing it, where they're really trying to get the most out of the story that they are reading, and learning about how to analyze AI and use it more deeply. All right, so let's look at the skills that students develop. So the key skills students develop are close reading and textual analysis, evidence-based augmentation, understanding character complexity and psychological depth, evaluation of AI-generated content, and recognizing the difference between imitation and understanding. All skills we want our students to be familiar with. And now for extension possibilities. So you could try, number one, the first one we see here, the character debate, where you have 2 AI instances role play different characters like Juliet and Lady Capulet, or Romeo and Mercutio, and students critique whether the dialogue feels authentic to both characters. Or you can try the screen rewrite, where you have AI generate a new scene between characters. Maybe Juliet confronting her father after refusing to marry Paris, and then students identify what's out of character and then they rewrite it to be more authentic. Or you can try the cross-text comparison, where you have AI role play as characters from different plays. Juliet meets Hamlet, that's a good one. And students analyze how AI handles the clash of different literary styles and time periods. Okay, the deeper lesson. So one last thought on this project. This isn't about making students hate AI or think it's useless. It's really about teaching them to see AI as a tool that reveals the limits of computational understanding. AI can pattern match. It can imitate Shakespearean language, but it really can't feel the weight of Juliet's transformation from obedient child to tragic heroine. And it can't capture the heartbreak of a 13-year-old girl choosing death over a life without agency. Only a human reader can do that. And we want students to realize that. When they see that their human analysis is deeper and more nuanced than AI's, that's pretty empowering. So hopefully we can get that across to them. All right, so we've seen 3 projects. Elementary students do engineering clear instructions, middle schoolers hunting historical hallucinations, and high schoolers critiquing AI's literary analysis. Now let's tie it all together. So let's step back and let's look at the pattern across all 3 projects. There's a formula here, and if you stuck with me to the end and one of these subjects did not match a subject you teach, you can still do this PBL plus AI formula and come up with an entire lesson of your own for whatever subject you are teaching. So here's the framework. In the launch phase, the student's job is hands-on work. They gather data, read books, interview people, build physical prototypes. The AI's job during launch is to stay closed. Students need to build foundational knowledge first. The inquiry phase, next, the student's job is still hands-on. They draft ideas, debate, do sketches, and now AI can enter, but only to generate variations to compare or stress test student ideas. In the refinement phase, students compare AI outputs to facts and identify what's missing. AI's job here is to provide a first draft, keyword, first draft, to be analyzed and improved. And in the final product phase, students present a human-validated, evidence-based solution. AI can optionally format or polish the final delivery, but the thinking has already been done by the human, and that's what we want. So what's consistent here is students do the intellectual work first, they build the expertise, they create something with their hands and brains, and only when all of that hard work, all of that heavy lifting has been done with their brains, then AI enters as a sparring partner, not a shortcut. All right, so here are the 3 core principles of PBL and AI. Laptops stay closed during launch, guys. The first 15 to 20 minutes of any PBL project should be analog. At least give it that much time. Students read physical text, they build with their hands, and this forces them to engage deeply without the AI crutch. Number 2 is AI is the stress test, not the solution. When AI enters the picture, it should be testing student thinking, not replacing it. Now, AI will generate a draft that students critique. AI makes errors that students catch. AI creates an imitation that students improve. The student is always the expert, and we want them to always realize that. And principle 3 is human validation is non-negotiable. The final product must be checked, verified, and validated by human thinking. Students prove their claims with sources. They explain why AI is wrong, and they demonstrate understanding that goes beyond what AI generated. All right, so I have created a 1-page implementation guide that summarizes all 3 projects with prompts, materials, time breakdowns, and assessment ideas. You can access it on Pathfinder's Online Institute next week. It should be on there. James will put a link in the chat to Pathfinder's Online Institute. And just as a reminder, if you haven't already, please go to POI and please go through and you can watch previous webinars if you'd like to gain a certification. It's pretty easy to do once you watch the webinar. If you've already joined me already, you can take a quiz and then go ahead and ask for a certification from Infosys Foundation USA. And we'd love to have you as part of our family. Thank you guys so much for joining today. If you want to continue this conversation, you can connect with me through my email. I'm putting it in the chat. James can add it for me. And remember, in a world full of AI-generated content, human thinking is your student's superpower. Let's make sure we're building that muscle every single day. Goodbye. Thank you guys so much for joining. I had a great time with everyone. It was wonderful being here with all of you. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and good evening. Oh, and the email, James, if you could pop the email in the chat. Thank you so much. It's there. Please catch it if you can. All right. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Goodbye.